you all for being here, especially after a long, full day that I'm sure you've all had. When I was 9, a few years ago, I was called into the office by the principal of my small private school. Her name was Mrs. Harris. And when I walked in, I saw Mrs. Harris behind her big fancy desk, and to my right, I saw my parents. My dad, Cecil, with his thinning black hair combed perfectly over the top of his head, and my mom, Barbara, she was in a proper dress. Mrs. Harris said, "Sheryl, I know you're working really hard, and you're doing pretty well. Unfortunately, you aren't a good enough student to remain in this school." Wait, what? Dad, aren't you going to defend me? I'm doing all the things. I'm working and I'm getting the grades. I'm doing the things that never happened. We took those words as truth and we left. But my dad did tell me something on the way out. He said, "Sheryl, it's only October. If you put your mind to it, you can do anything. You have the whole school year." And I thought that was great news. Great news, right? I just had to work longer and harder. So that's what I did. I came home from school. I gave up my sport. I got home. I checked on my mom, who at the time, I didn't really understand why she was so sad all the time. Now I knew that she suffered from bipolar disorder. I came home when I was 9. I worked longer and harder after I checked on her. I went upstairs. I did all the things. And then one day, it was the end of June. It was a Sunday. My dad was making breakfast like he always did, wearing his blue plaid pajama bottoms and his white V-neck t-shirt. And he called me into the kitchen as he was making scrambled eggs. And I came in. I said, "Yeah." And without even looking at me, "Sheryl, you're not going to be going back to that school in the fall." It was in that moment that I thought, you know, Mrs. Harris was right. It's good enough. Has anyone ever felt that way? Ever? Okay, the honest people are raising their hands. No. Eventually, I got curious. Who gets to decide who's good enough? I was especially curious about Olympians. Who gets to decide if a world-class athlete is good enough to win a gold medal? So that's what I did. Over the last couple decades, I've been studying and working with world-class performers. And I used to think this story was about my dad, you know, who told me if you put your mind to it, you can do anything. And he certainly spurred an interest. But the story is really about my mom. My mom, who didn't have a voice in that meeting. She didn't have a voice in our home because we weren't allowed to speak when the news was on during dinner. And if she spoke, she'd get yelled at. She also didn't have a voice because she was passionate about owls. And you might be wondering, well, what do owls have to do with business? Well, she didn't have a voice with that either because she was never told that it was important. She never believed in herself. She never had the clarity about what she should do or the confidence. And so when she passed away when she was 69, so did her dream of helping 3 species of owls who are now extinct. So what I'm passionate about, and I tend to call myself as a catalyst warrior, I go to battle for people's dreams. And dreams, and I'm not talking about SMART goals. I'm talking about dreams. They don't die on my watch. Okay? So, what we're going to talk about today is going to be a little bit about gaining clarity, a little bit about building confidence, and then also how to have strategic influence so we can speak up and be heard in a manner that is calm, authentic, and powerful. You guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. That's more about me. You probably know enough about me. You know, talk about clarity. One goal that I have, I impact 10,000 men and women a year to be mentally tough. My marketing efforts are focused on women because just to throw us all under the bus at the same time, we tend to have a little more baggage in that department, and we tend to not speak up for ourselves as much and tend to not have that confidence. But that's my goal. That's what we've been doing for the last 2 years. All right. World-class performers do not run from one thing to the other. If you were a world-class track athlete, you would not put on your gym clothes and then go run to the blocks to start your race, right? There's transitions. You guys have had a full work day. You've just eaten pasta, which is making me sleepy just thinking about it. And I love it because it's so good. I can't just eat a little. That's probably why I get sleepy. And I knew not to eat your pasta now because I would probably eat it all. But I'm going to try it later. So we want to have a transition. So if everyone can stand up, there's ways that we can generate more energy because a power plant generates energy, right? It generates it. It doesn't automatically have it. And there's ways that we can calm down. Right now, we're going to do a quick exercise. It's called breath scaling. So you're going to stand in like a fighter stance, right? So you're going to push out like this and then come back, okay? Get in that rhythm. And so now we're going to inhale when you go out and exhale. In through your nose, out through your mouth. I have you on. So inhale on the way in, exhale on the way out. Sorry. If you feel lightheaded, sit down. Now we're going to go faster. Slow down. I want you to stand out. And I want you to just turn around and look at someone you're next to. Look them right in the eyes and say, I'm here. Okay, and go ahead and sit down. All right, so I want to encourage you every time you're transitioning or you're going from, maybe it's all crazy at home. I remember when I had young kids, oh my God, I have some really funny stories about when my kids were young. Like, funny. So ask me about them later. But anyways, then you get to work, you want to transition. Take a moment at work. Clear your mind. What's important? Okay, my intention going forward is this. Especially, we heard about the phone goes away, when you get home, which is an amazing habit to have, so thank you for bringing that up. But just like world-class performers, you know how you see a football team run through the tunnel and they touch the top? So when you get home, also have a transition there too. Maybe touch the door jamb and ask yourself, how do I want to show up for the people that I love the most? Even if you had a crappy day. It doesn't mean to discount your day. You can talk to them about it later, but if you haven't seen them for 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 hours, however long it is, let's just show up in your highest integrity and as your best self for those first moments. Okay? Transitions. You guys follow me? Okay, awesome. All right, so where's the purpose? Why are we here after having a long day? And like Sheila said, sorry this is kind of hard to read, it's to gain immediate and behavior-driven clarity and intentionality towards a desired outcome. Okay, lack of clarity, I think, Bob, he touched on it a little bit, but I'm going to phrase it a different way. Mitchell. But I will never forget your name.
You don't.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to take one. But anyways, he touched on it, but I'm very direct. If you've ever, people either love working with me one-on-one, they love me training their team, or they're afraid of me. They're like, I'll buy your book. You don't need to come to my place, okay? Lack of clarity, because I'm very direct, very direct. Lack of clarity is the death of productivity. That's why, Mitchell, this is awesome. If you do not have one of these, take one. You need to know what you're doing in the long term, why you care about it, and also in the short term. When you have any crucial conversation, we're going to go over this. Most people do not plan. They are not clear. And that leaves your interactions, your long-term future, up to randomness. It leaves conversations up to randomness. Okay? And then the goal, is to introduce strategies to next level your impact this spring, because I know this is an exciting time for you guys in this industry. Is that right?
Yeah.
I know that was like so close to listing my house, and I got chicken. But I know, I grew up in real estate.
I can help you.
Okay. Okay. All right. But here's the thing. Sometimes we don't feel confident. It happens to all of us. Whenever we approach the next level, so in other words, I happen to know because I wasn't really eavesdropping, I was just standing over there. But Mitchell's gonna have an amazing month. So celebrate that, and I'm sure you will because you have awesome coaches. But think about that, and where is the next level from that? If you have the best month ever, what is a crazy leap from there? So I don't care if you're just starting, or if you're like, I'm arrived. I am sexful. I am sexful. I'm not really sure what that means. It's like cross between sexy and successful. Yeah. You get the idea. At least you guys are paying attention. Sexy, successful. You get the idea.
Successful.
Yeah. You can write that one down. That's on recording, I think. Sometimes though, even though we're successful, sometimes we don't feel confident, even though we are working really hard and maybe we are seeing some results. But sometimes we're just not confident. Does anyone lack confidence ever? Yeah. Okay, it happens to everyone at some point. Maybe in business you're killing it, but maybe you're starting to go back to the gym and get fit. Maybe you're not confident when you walk in there. Okay, no one is perfectly confident across all aspects of their life, right? And then maybe too, within your community, your team, your company, your organization, or maybe even your family, you're not feeling respected or satisfied despite being highly ambitious. This is going to be very important to pay attention to if you lead a team, to be highly aware of this, and for yourself as well, because impact and results decelerate. Okay? So this is a framework that I teach in an all-day offsite. You guys do not want to stay up all night till tomorrow morning with me, so we're not going to do that here. And you might think, oh, it's be heard, it's one of those feminist things. It's not. Okay, this is applicable to anyone. And is anyone in here, any women in here have kids? Okay, so my son, when he was 4, now he's 24, he locked his hand, like we had a port expedition and he slammed it and his hand was in there. And I heard a scream like I've never heard before. I don't even know how I got over to the other side of the car, but I was like there in like 4 seconds. I think I could have flipped the car over. So for you women that are moms, would you not flip a car for your kids? And I think you could. Okay, so what we're talking about here is how to unlock that superpower that women have on your teams and in yourself. because at least what I've seen in the 10,000 women that I either coach or speak to from a stage, I'm not seeing enough of it. Okay? But this is really powerful for men and women. All right, let me explain this from a high level view. Okay? We talked about clarity. I'm not going to get into the weeds about what we talk about. Suffice it to say that the things on the outside up here, I don't have like a little light thing where it says integrity, legacy, blueprint, all those things. We're starting with the end in mind. Okay, we're starting far off into the future, and then we get into current. Okay? And so clarity, and it says chart your path. If you lack clarity, you have no vision. If you don't know what is your highest sense of integrity, then you lack a vision for how to be congruent every day. Okay? If you lack what do you want your legacy to be, how do you want to be remembered, then you have no vision about how you want to be remembered by the people that matter the most. Okay? The same with in your business. If you have no clarity on the end game for your business, you have no vision for your business. And also in the moments, in the interactions, in the conversations with your teams, your colleagues, your family, your clients, your prospects. If you have no clarity on the end game with those, then you have no vision for how you want them to turn out. And what I will tell you is that world-class performers in athletics and business are very clear. They're very clear in the long term and also in the moment. Okay? Confidence. Not going to talk too much about confidence tonight, but confidence is a learned skill. Has anyone ever thought or said, oh, that person is confident, oh, you know, that's maybe just not me? Has anyone ever thought that someone was maybe dropped onto the planet as a confident person?
Yes.
They kind of popped out of the womb, right? It's not the case. It's a learned skill, okay? Without confidence, you risk not having a voice. Because what we're going to talk about is 5 times more important than what you say is the tone and inflection in your voice. And I'm here to tell you that whatever you are thinking will come out of your mouth. So if you're going into an interaction thinking, wow, the last 5 interactions have just been epic fails and here we go again, okay, your tone is going to lack confidence. Your tone is going to send a message of doubt. And even if you have the perfect words, either consciously or subconsciously, I'm going to think, whoa, she's not confident that she can help me. I'm not confident for either. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to deal with that. Okay, and then finally influence. Oh, I love talking about this. I love it. It's so fascinating. This is based on the science that professional negotiators use to keep people safe. And if we get you weaponized with this, I feel so sorry for the other person in the conversation because they just have no chance. Okay? So this is super fun. We're going to talk about that. Without influence, meaning influence isn't about convincing. Influencing is about how to get other people to see your point of view, but make them think it's their own idea and on their own accord. So powerful. Okay? Today, in the interest of time, we're going to focus on influence because it's my favorite. They're all my favorite. I'm not lying when I say everyone, but this one holds a special place in my heart. Okay? So we're going to talk about influence. Now, if you don't believe me, you're like, what is she talking about? I've only learned about SMART goals. What is this about dreaming? I mean, if you think about it, all sorts of crazy things have happened in history. You know, there are like steel tubes flying around in the air. I still don't understand how an ocean liner floats on water because it seems very heavy, but some very smart people figured that out. Okay? We're talking about dreaming big, dreaming crazy. Okay? And the science supports that you can do it. There's 50 years of human performance research and probably thousands of years of proof, but these are very smart people that have done this research. Has anyone heard of Carol Dweck? Okay, mindset, meaning that if you have a growth mindset, if you believe that you can improve, then you can. If you limit yourself being fixed, meaning that this is me, I had a bad transaction, I had a bad quarter, I had a bad year, I had a bad whatever, I'm bad at this. That's a fixed mindset. But she's proven that if you think and you think a certain way, then you can improve and be successful. Okay? Talent is overrated. What does that tell you? That tells you that success is less about talent. It's just not. Okay? In some instances, if you want to be a ballerina and you're 6'4", okay, maybe it's harder. Okay? But people that are successful, it's not because they're talented. So I want to invite you to think, don't think Mitchell's successful because he's more talented than me. He's probably more consistent. He's probably more clear. And he probably believes in what he's setting out to do. And he has some help. Okay? Grit, passion, and perseverance. You ought to love what you do. I'm speaking to you guys tonight because I'm fighting for each one of you. Can I share philosophy right now? Get a little philosophical and less technical just for a second. I believe that you have something very special placed inside you. I'm going to get spiritual, not religious. Okay? I believe you're new, right? I believe that you made a shift because you were being called to do something different for yourself, your family. Okay? You have something special. You have something, all of you. Okay? We have a limited amount of time to bring it to life. Peak, I work pretty closely with Anders Ericsson. He coined the 10,000 hour rule. He also coined deliberate practice. And he's really proven, he's 73 years old right now, he's out of Florida State. He's proven that if we practice, and if we practice in a certain way, we can all become an expert. But part of what he's proven is that we need help. People do not become successful on their own. Okay? Oh, wait, I forgot one book. This one.
Oops.
This is not research. This is the foundation. Okay? The first step is for you to get clear on what you want and then actually believe that it's possible. So in other words, you're going to be receiving and learning, and if you have the most amazing materials to build a dream home, you want to make sure it's being built on solid ground and not quicksand. This is what this book is going to help you do. Okay? And there's some here, some lucky folks will get one for free, and then if there's some right there if you want to get one after. All right. This is the only picture of my family, don't worry. Everyone is very excited about their children. I'm putting one up there, but let me tell you why, in all seriousness. People are watching you. People are watching you. And you, and you, all of us, right? Whether you think that you are an influencer or not, you are. Your friends are watching, your kids are watching, your colleagues are watching. So Ryan, when he was 11, declared that he wanted to be on the tennis team at the University of California. I said, great. The problem was he was about 4'8" and like 90 pounds. So he worked, he grew a little bit, but not a lot. And long story short, he was a junior then at high school and he practiced every day. He ran on the track with a headlamp. You know, we served 300 tennis balls. He did all the things. He worked really hard as if it had already happened, kind of like what we were talking about. And then one day, he had some options because he worked hard in school. But I said, well, what's your choice? What do you want to do? And he's like, well, my dream is still to play at Cal. And I kind of gave it away because I shouldn't have put this slide up yet. But he's like, they're never going to recruit me because I'm only kind of in the middle. You know, they're top 5 in the nation. I'm only in the middle. I'm a national ranking. And I said, okay, well, you know, why don't you march down and talk to Peter Wright and explain to him how hard you've worked for the last 7 years. It has been your dream for the last 7 years. And how you're going to make the team better. Because you're going to make them run faster. You're going to make them on the court and hit more tennis balls. You're going to help them rise up whether you're on the court with them or not. So I taught him how to influence when he was 17. He put on the only collared shirt he had at the time. And he marched down there and he looked 12. Now he looks 16. So he came back. I'm like, do you need me to go? You know, I knew. And he was like, no. Like, no. And he came back and I said, what happened? And he said, well, Peter shook my hand and he said, welcome to the University of California. And not only that, this picture was when he was a freshman. They featured him on the whole back spread of the Daily Californian.
Wow. Awesome.
And you know what the title was? When David beat Goliath and ended up D1. So then he said, oh, I want to graduate from the Haas School of Business. Oh, you'll never get in. That's what all his friends said. He said, thank you for your opinion. You go get drunk on Saturday night because I'm going to go to the Haas School of Business. And that's where he'll be graduating from in May. Okay? So people are watching. They're watching. Okay? All right. We're gonna roll up our sleeves. Do I only have till 6? What are we? Because we started late. Okay. Awesome. Okay, we gotta stand up again. We're gonna do one more crazy thing. So if nothing else, I want you guys to remember me. Okay? I want, even if it's like it's the craziest thing, we have to stand up and sit down. Has anyone ever been to church or temple? Oh, I'm different. I didn't mean to say Jesus. I'm Jewish. But I'm like, I hate the up and down. So just stay with me for a second. Okay, so this is called cupping. Okay, it's like if you don't believe in Qigong, if I pronounce that right, then there's actually a science behind it because this is going to activate your nerve endings and there's medical proof that this will stimulate your nerves. Okay, so whatever you believe. We're going to start with an arm. All the way back here. Okay, other side. Back here. All right, either hold on to something or if you're good balance, we're going to do this. Oh, geez. Okay. Okay. Get back there. Pat your butt. Okay. Then your lower back. Don't pat the other person's butt. Okay. Okay. All right. Get back there. Okay. We're going to take 3 deep belly breaths. Ready? Out your mouth. You're going to clap 3 times and then say, I'm here. Ready? I'm here. All right. You can sit down. Okay, awesome. So can you imagine before going into any meeting, crucial conversation or meeting, even if you're just like, okay, I'm here. And then the next step from that would be to focus on something that you have control over that's most important to the outcome. So if you're going into a client meeting, maybe it's eye contact, focus on the facts. You know? So these transitions and preparation are really important. That's why I'm making you go through all this craziness, okay? Okay. I'm going to give you these worksheets. Hopefully you'll stay to the end because you will get these, so don't worry about writing things down too fast. I talked to quite a few of you when I came in, and a lot of you said, I want actionable, like don't just get up there, and there's supposed to be music, so I was really going to get everyone like really amped up. But don't just get us amped up and then just kind of leave us hanging, because then we're going to go home and go back into our habits and our thing. So this is going to be applied, we're going to do some stuff, okay? And I always get told to go deeper on less, which I'm trying so hard, but it's all just so important. I'm going to talk a little, we're going to focus on influence, but we have to have the conversation about clarity because it's very difficult to influence if you're not clear on what you're influencing, okay? So this is what I call the Clarity One Thing worksheet. This goes a lot deeper, but it's okay, we're going to keep it simple for tonight, okay? So we can make sure that you're doing and make some progress. So I want you to write down, I don't want to say write on the back, if you have something to write on, think of the 3 words that define your best self. So for example, my 3 words are present, calm, and disciplined. It doesn't mean that I'm always like that. You can ask my husband. I'm not always calm. I'm pretty good about being present. There are things that when I can execute them, I feel like I'm living in my highest integrity. These are things that if your colleagues and family, the people that mattered the most, they were all talking about you and you were standing behind them, they didn't know that you were there. They said, oh my gosh, Sheryl's so this, that, and the other thing. You would be like, why, yes I am. And it would make you feel amazing, okay? Think about what are the 3 words that define your best self, and when we're done here today, I'd like to invite you to put them as a reminder on your phone at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. You can set them as an alarm, okay? Because sometimes you might live into these really well, maybe at home or maybe at work, but sometimes we get tired, sometimes we get hungry, or not me, I'm always, no, I'm just kidding. I cannot get away with anything because someone's here to keep me on it. But we just need those reminders, okay? And also you can put them on a sticky note by your mirror at home and maybe by your computer at work, okay? And then also one person. You know, we've all heard, and I love, I just got Simon Sinek's new book, shameless plug, I'm not connected to him in any way, but it's amazing. But we've all heard to start with why, right? But I want to encourage you to think about not what is your why, but who is your who. For me, one person is my mom. My mom never had a voice. Not at home, not a career, not in a mission, not in a cause, and now her opportunity's gone. So when I go fight for you, or I fight for you, or your team, or I work with you one-on-one, or I speak from a stage, I see the next level and the good and the possibilities in everyone. And I'm almost like I'm fighting for her. Okay? So I want you to think about who is your one person. Also, think about, so what is my one thing then? My one thing is I inspire 10,000 people a year to be mentally tough. I do that through one-on-one coaching, which I knew that I could not physically coach that many people. I love seeing the transformation in people when they come to me with a vague kind of dream, and then we get it clear and really dialed in, and then we build their confidence and teach them how to influence. I love seeing that transformation, to see them going from maybe not clear, maybe not confident, not knowing how to influence, to seeing and being on that trajectory to that next level of impact and joy that they know they want and deserve. I know that that lights me up. But I knew that I couldn't hit my goal, my one thing, 10,000 people a year to be mentally tough. So I learned how to be a speaker. It's a work in progress. Okay? But my one thing right now, besides other more specific goals, is to inspire and transform 10,000 people a year. Okay, so I want to know, what is your one thing? I want it to be a crazy thing. Okay? It's time for my one thing. You know, I'm in a mastermind and they're like, I think it's time to add a 0. I'm like, oh. Okay, so what is your next thing that's a little crazy? I want to encourage you to think about, what is the one thing that if you told your significant other or told a girlfriend, they'd be like, okay, you have fun with that. I think she's drinking again. Okay, that. I want it to be that. Okay? And then, like, why is it worth fighting for? Why is it worth fighting for? Okay? For me, this is what I believe. And again, I'm going to have hell yesers and oh my God, she's crazy. Okay. For me, I coach people. I speak from stages and I train teams of heart-centered and ambitious leaders. Because I believe that if they can access, remember we talked about that special thing? I believe if they can access and next level that special thing, they can collectively repair the world. Thank you for that. Okay? That's why it's worth fighting for. That's more important to me. I'm opening a conference in 2 months. I was telling Angela, kind of like, you don't think that I do that all day long. I did for the first time last year. And the first time I applied to the conference, by the way, I got rejected. So don't just think that I'm just up here opening conferences for 3,000 people all day long. He'll tell you, I get way more rejections than I get yeses. But I did a good job last year, so they invited me back. What I fight for is more important to me than worrying about what other people think. Okay, I encourage you to start locking in every day to this. What are your 3 words? How can you show up in your highest integrity today? What is your one thing? Who are you fighting for and why is it important? Because once you can lock into this every single day, you will stop wasting time. You will stop worrying about what other people think. The world is really conspiring for you to be successful. You just have to get out of your head and let it happen. It also requires a little help. You know, we all hear we need to be out, you know, successful people, you know, they live outside their comfort zone. We might put a toe outside our comfort zone, but we don't live out there by ourselves. So I would encourage either having a coach or a mentor or a friend or someone that's not just going to believe in you, not just be a cheerleader. It's not enough. It's good to have cheerleaders, but you need someone to shove you off the plane. Someone that you tell that crazy goal. Who here hates cold water? I do not like swimming in lakes. I do not like it. It takes me forever to get in. I need someone that's just going to like go. You know, I'm around people that are like, oh, great, you've inspired for the last 2 years, 10,000 people to get to the next level. Put an O on the end of that, let's go. And then sit your butt down, let's map it out. I'm like, oh man. There are people that you kind of hate, but you kind of, you know those people? Okay. You need some of those, okay? All right. And then find, how will I commit to progress? So you have the long-term vision and why and all these things. Starting tomorrow, what are you going to do? I'm going to hire a coach. I'm going to talk to my mentor. I'm going to, what is the thing that you can that you have control of that you can do? I'm going to start listening to affirmations. I'm going to take this sheet and I am going to plan this into my calendar, and I'm going to have a 66-day challenge because that's how long it takes to form a habit. I'm going to do the things on here. I don't know. What are you going to do and how are you going to commit? And I will tell you that you need some accountability. So if you're going to commit, I learned for myself, because as coaches have coaches, if you're paying someone, you get it done. Does anyone ever knock on the gym by themselves and they pay a trainer and all of a sudden, oh, they're up at 5 a.m. You're like, well, that money's not going to waste. Well, it's the same thing. But if that's not, you know, feasible, or if that's not going to work for you, that's fine. But you want to align yourself with accountability and some real honest people. that are gonna hold your foot to the fire, okay? So that was a little bit on clarity. Okay, we're gonna spend the rest of the time talking about influence. It's very difficult to be influential if we're not locked into what we wanna do and why we care about it. Okay? I also, before we talk about influence, which is a topic I love, did I tell you that? Okay, I did. I want to tell you about a woman whose name is Tiffany. Tiffany is the Chief Human Resource Officer of a tech company. And she ended up going last in all of her meetings with the CEO. She met every time, so I don't know if, does anyone have like weekly meetings with leadership? Or maybe they give the meetings or, what have you. And so she would always go last. And half the time she wouldn't even have a voice. And it was not letting her live into her highest integrity because she was the voice of the people. And so she felt like when she wasn't getting heard, the people in the company were not getting heard. And the first time she went to talk to her CEO, she was annoyed and angry. Has anyone ever been annoyed and angry and then gone into a conversation like that? I have never. Don't say anything. Just kidding. Influence does not happen when we're annoyed and angry, right? And she went in and she said, I always go last. It's not right. I want to go third. And the answer was, no, you're not directly responsible for revenue generation, so you're not going. Conversation didn't go well. And then we learned some of these skills, and that's when everything changed for her. Okay? And before we go through this, has anyone ever had a conversation that went sideways? Yeah. That you're like, what the heck happened? Either that or you're just like, ugh, like I should have, either it turned into an argument or you just didn't have the impact that you wanted. Yeah, okay, we all have, by the way. So remember I mentioned before that we need to get our mind straight before we open our mouth. Okay, so this is what I call developing an eco mindset. Influence happens when we come from a place of really being empathetic, curious, and optimistic. So even when we are in strong disagreement with someone, whether it's a significant other or in business, or even someone that's just flat out nasty, we need to come at them with some compassion. Because it's actually a human drive for us to feel heard and understood. Okay? Really important to come from a mindset of being empathetic. Even if a person's really awful and evil. Like I worked with someone like that actually when I was a young person. And you come at them like, wow, this is a really inappropriate way to behave, and I'm really empathetic of what maybe they went through to think that that was okay. Get empathetic in your head. It's not for them, okay? It's for you, okay? Be curious. I'm curious, like I said, why they think it's okay. Okay, and then also be optimistic. I'm 100% optimistic that this is going to end up okay. All right? Work through that. So we're going to go over influence basics. This is going to take, I want you to understand it, but it's going to take a little time to sink in. Okay? Really important. This is based on the science of tactical influence. Okay? And we're going to have a worksheet for this as well. The first thing is listen and legitimize. In other words, like I said, it's a human drive for us to be acknowledged and heard. So you want to listen to people and let them know that what they're saying is normal and okay. Do not confuse this with agreeing. You're not saying, I hear you and I agree with you. You're saying, I hear you and I get it. Does anyone want an example?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just use a real easy example like with kids. I have a 20-year-old daughter as well. She might say, bye, I'm gonna be back at 2 in the morning. And I'm thinking, no. But rather than saying, no, you're not, that's crazy, absolutely not, or you're living under my roof, blah, 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 and she'll figure out a way, whatever. So you want to listen and say, oh, remember, empathetic. Like, what was I like when I was 20? I probably want to do that. Like, I'm empathetic that she might want to do that. Curious, you know, and optimistic. But I want to listen to her and legitimize. And a lot of us learn to think by listening to say what I'm hearing. Don't say that. Okay? Because then it makes it about you. Okay? What I'm hearing, and it leaves people open to say, especially when you're talking to teenagers. Don't say that. But also in business. What you would rather say, what's more impactful, is to say it seems like. Okay? It seems like there's something really interesting to do that's more exciting to be at home, and I get that. Okay? If you skip this step, it would be like me saying, will you marry me? And you'd be like, no. You're like, weird. It's creepy and strange, and the answer's no. Okay? It's kind of the same thing. People need to feel heard even if you're in strong disagreement. Okay? Listen and legitimize does not mean agree. Okay? You want to think about what their objections might be. You just kind of explain it a little more and kind of like what the wins are for them. Okay? And then also propose your perspective. This is really how to role model the way. So what's your perspective? So in other words, this example might go like, seems like, you know, you want to stay out late and there's a lot of fun stuff going on rather than being home, and I get that. So that's the first step. Role modeling the way for me. You want to always, always, always stick with fact first, emotion second. Fact first, emotion second. Okay? So, you know, I was reading the local newspaper, and, you know, for people that are out driving after midnight, because there's drunk drivers out, you know, the statistic is that half of them are going to get in wrecks. I don't know, that's a little aggressive, but you know what I mean. I might inflate those numbers. But you know what I mean? Fact first. So if you're talking to a client, or if you're talking to anyone, you want to make sure that you talk with the fact first. You can then bring in emotion if you want to after the fact. Okay? So you want to frame it up. And then you also want to think about it in an intrinsic and extrinsic way. So in other words, how does it affect them intrinsically, and how does it affect them extrinsically? So in other words, how do you want them to feel, and what do you want them to do or experience? Inside, intrinsic, extrinsic. So I might say, you know, here's the thing. I want you to feel like you're having fun and participating with your friends. But I also want you to be safe. Intrinsic, extrinsic. Okay? And then by assert and affirm, you want to also take them, it's okay to take them down into something bad. And so, in other words, we don't want to, let's say when you're talking to prospects, you can also talk about, it's important to talk about the consequences of not taking action. So if you don't get this product, then this is what could happen. Maybe rates will move, maybe based on these facts that these rates won't be available, or something like that. You want to make sure that you let them know what the consequences are and what the bad things might be based on your expertise. So, and that's really important for them to know. That's in the future, you know, what could happen that's maybe not so good. And then what's really important in this assert and affirm is, and this would be a good thing to write down, is that you want to ask them a question. Most people don't do this. What really polarizes our minds are when we get asked questions. So when you ask someone a question, you want to take into consideration their integrity, but you also want to take into consideration a common goal. Okay? So it's something like, let's say has anyone ever worked with a team that's maybe underperforming? Okay? Let's just use that example. I'm sure it's never happened, but let's just use it as example. So you might say, okay, you've already gone, you've acknowledged and validated, say, hey, I know you're putting in the hours, I know you have a lot going on, and I totally get it. Okay, that's step one. Step two is propose your perspective. Here's the thing, these are the facts of where we're at. I just printed these reports, these are where we're at, this is where we're at, right? And this is where we need to be. There's a month left in the quarter. Then you want to assert and affirm by giving what could happen in the future that's not good. If we don't get on it, this is what's happening. We're all taking a pay cut. And also drop them down into not just that, but what that really means. Like, I don't know but for you guys, but what that means that I'm not going out to dinner this month. That means that my vacation's, in jeopardy. Like, really drop the bad into their life a little bit. Then you want to ask them a polarizing question, okay, based on a common goal and their integrity. So in other words, I know you're an incredibly hard worker, and I appreciate that so much. We're both focused, or we're all focused on hitting this goal for the quarter. So can you think of something else that we can do to get to that next level? Or you can challenge them with something specific. But I will tell you, if you're dealing with teams, people tend to execute what they create. So if you ask them that question, that's really important. People tend to have buy-in with things that they create. So if you can ask them a question and also assert and affirm with them, and they can help create it, then that can be really powerful. And then finally, you always want to end, and a lot of people forget about this too, and this is whether it's at home or in business, you want to make sure that you amplify your ambition. In other words, it's just a long-winded way of saying end on a high note. Okay? That's incredibly important. You want to end with aspiration. Just, I believe in you guys 100%. Or I have total confidence that you're going to make the right decision and the right product. I'm so excited for you. Right? I will tell you that there's a main way that women lose influence and a main way that men lose influence. Women lose influence because their voice ends on an ascension. So what do you think? That sends the message of, I'm not really sure in what I'm telling you actually works. Okay? Men tend to lose influence because they sound angry or condescending. 80% of men, it's never happened. 80% of men do not hear the tone of anger or condescension, especially condescension. That's a problem. Most women get, the thing that most annoys them the most is the tone of condescension. Has anyone ever had a conversation where their loving male person has said something and they thought it was being helpful or nice, and you've just had a WTF mouth, pardon my French, but you're just like, what? And then they just don't understand. So a lot of times, even when it gets played back to men, they just don't hear it. They don't hear it. So ladies, we need to be more explicit. And gentlemen, if someone tells you you sound angry or condescending, you do. Okay? All right? And so ladies, when you're influencing and you're closing a deal, I mean a deal with the kid on bedtime, or closing a deal with selling a product, or closing a deal with empowering your team, land the plane. Your voice, you want to end, this is a little confusing, but you want to end on a crescendo that's firm. The crescendo isn't, what do you think? Okay, no. It's It's like, let's do this. Right? Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
So the second part to that is the man part. So what does the man do? How do we end it? Rather than being angry and condescending.
Okay, well, I'm not saying that men are always angry or condescending. I'm just saying that when we're thinking in our heads that we're annoyed or angry, it comes out our mouth. And a lot of times men just don't hear the tone when they get told that. I'm not saying men walk around all day long being angry and condescending. But it's really important that men in general, people in general, just end on a high note, meaning that they just still land the plane, but in a way thinking that they're optimistic. So they can just be, let's do this. Just think of having a smile on your face. Think of being happy. Thinking of being confident, believing. Okay? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to ask a question in regards to transition. What about listening skills? You connected purpose and goals as a part of it. And listening skills, how do you measure that?
How do I measure?
How do we measure our listening skills based on our goals and our purpose?
I'm trying to think if I understand your question.
Let me put it another way. I have a point of view that I want to get across. I'm clear on what I want to do.
Okay.
There's purpose there. But I got to listen to the person to make sure they understand what my purpose and my goals are.
Mm-hmm.
How do I measure whether or not they got that or not?
You just need to ask.
Just ask.
Yeah. So explain yourself.
But how am I communicating? Okay.
Yeah.
Just ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just ask
I
and
asked them
explain
whether or not
yourself.
they got that or not. Is that what you said?
Just explain yourself, and then ask what their interpretation is, and if they need clarification.
Okay. Well, can I ask one more?
Sure.
So where is the communication in that? I'm really clear that in the transition part, and I'm really clear on the purpose part, and I'm really clear on the goal part. But the communication part of that, and communicating clarity of purpose, you have the clarity of purpose, but we're trying to make sure that the other person understands that. And I want to pick up on where you're going with that, because that's important.
Okay, well, it might be a conversation for another day, but
Another day,
the only
okay.
thing that I can speak to is be very clear and intentional. So, and you want to be more explicit than you think you need to be.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay? Okay, this, in the interest of time, I'm gonna explain it, and I'm gonna give it to you at the end, but you don't need to walk through it right now, okay? So this is a framework that if you're thinking, oh, I need to have a crucial conversation, this is something that you can fill out and work through. Because I will tell you, I work one-on-one with a lot of amazing people. They don't typically prepare as they should. Okay? Now they do, or with teams. Whether it's for yourself or for your team, it's really important to prepare. So getting in that eco mindset again, empathetic, optimistic, and curious, but then also walk through, listen and legitimize. That basically just means you're acknowledging someone else. That earns you the right to have their ears open and hear you. Okay? Propose perspective. That's really a way that you can role model the way, starting with fact first, emotion second, and also assert and affirm. That's just a way of challenging someone based on a common goal and their integrity. Okay? So for the human resource officer that I was talking about before, the second time around that she talked to the CEO, she said, I know revenue and growth is incredibly important, and I know there's a lot of pressure on you from the board. Okay? But here's the thing. I was responsible for hiring the chief revenue officer and his 2 downlines. This is the revenue that they generated. And so this is why I am directly responsible for revenue generation. And, based on our common goal of what we need to do by the end of the year, I would imagine that you think it's important for me to go third in this meeting, right? And then the hardest part of that is just being quiet. So now she speaks third. Okay? Do you see the difference? Okay? Okay, summary. I gave you a lot of information. I was part of a speaking mastermind and training, and they're like, no, just stop giving so much, but I can't help it, because it's important. So what are the couple things that I want you to take away? If your mind is like, were you guys with me? What do you think about this? Learning some things? Okay, awesome.
Yes.
And then I'm going to take questions in a second. But clarity. Think about your 3 words and your 1 person. You know, if you want to really go after it, then have the full worksheet, which I will give you, and post that somewhere. Okay? But if nothing else, 3 words, an alarm on your phone of the 3 words. Okay? And also the 1 person. Who are you fighting for? Okay? Eco mindset. Empathetic, curious, optimistic. If you're really riled up, give yourself a buffer or transition to breathe, get calmed down. You never want to enter into any crucial conversation if you're coming from a place of anger, fear, frustration. It will not turn out well. Okay? So give yourself some time and space. Get in that mindset. And then also, internal, external influence. What I mean is it's important that we have internal influence over ourselves. Acknowledge our fears. Anytime something is new, it's scary. At least it has been for me, right? Emotions will always win. And we tend to push them away by saying, don't worry, it'll be fine. So if someone on your team is like, I don't know if I can do this, I don't know if I'm cut out for this, rather than you coaching them or them coaching themselves, saying, don't worry, it'll be fine, our brains don't register don't. So we just worry. So it's better to have internal influence and acknowledge, just like we were talking about before, but also with yourself internally. I'm afraid. I'm new. I'm afraid that I might not be able to do this. It's really hard. It's okay. You're neutral about it, because it's almost like does anyone ever have anyone in their community that maybe they don't like or don't want to talk to? Okay. Or maybe you did in high school, whatever. But it's almost like if they cornered you and you were really busy and you didn't want to talk to them anyway, would you punch them in the face? Or, I only had one person say they would punch them in the face. Would you punch them in the face? Or would they say, would you say, oh, I'd love to talk to you, but I'm so sorry, I'm in a big hurry, and just kind of push them out of you? Okay, this is a way of doing that, and it's a more effective way of dealing with some negative emotions, okay? Internal influence, okay? And then also external as well. These things work for both. Internally for ourselves, okay, legitimize, acknowledge, and then share a perspective, and then also ask ourselves a question. And so give me your first name. Lisa? So Lisa might say, oh, I'm new, and it's kind of scary. And it's okay. Here's the thing, fact. There's been someone in their first year that's done this. Okay, that's a fact. All right, then you might ask yourself a question and say, you've been successful, you've raised a family, you've been successful in business before. Do you think that this is possible? Do you believe this is possible? And you just want to ask that question. So it's internal and external, okay? And then this is me. What I wanted to let you know is that I want to make this content real for you. Okay, I've had a very short amount of time, and I hope you've gotten a couple nuggets and tidbits. What I'm going to do is give you the entire slide deck. Okay? I'm also going to give you the 2 worksheets.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Because like I said, I want you to start tapping into here and moving into that next level, because people are watching you, and collectively, the world needs to see you at your best. Okay? I'm offering to an application for a 30-minute session. This is for some people and not for some people. Okay? If you are fairly established in your career and you have the bandwidth and you're ready, then it's definitely for you. If you're like, oh my gosh, like this has been a lot for me and I have a lot going on and I'm just maybe I'll get the book and maybe like that's really all I can just absorb a little bit, then maybe what I'm trying to communicate is that it's not that some people are good for it and some people aren't good for it. It's about timing. Okay, so it's for people that are already, they're somewhat established, they're really ready to get to the next level, either for themselves or for their team. So I want you to imagine what it would be like for either yourself or your team to go from maybe a little lack of clarity, maybe a little bit of underperformance, to getting weaponized to get to that next level. So that's to have a conversation about how to help you individually, or maybe how to help your team. Okay? And then those are just limited to 10 just because of some things going on. So if you want to do one of those, if you want to apply for that, I would encourage you to go ahead and do it probably tonight. And so that's the transformation that you're going to see there. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, awesome. And then I'm going to take, well, I'll leave this up while I'll do a Q&A. Does anyone have any other questions? No? Questions?
Great job.
Oh, thank you. We also have books too, so if you're like, I don't know, like if I want to, work with you one-on-one, but start with a book. It's like a workbook, and I know there's going to be a drawing, and there's just one other super quick thing that we're going to do. I want you guys to stand up again, and normally we have music, and I'm not going to sing for you because you would run out of here, but I want you to close your eyes for a second. Okay, and don't worry if you look a little silly, because everyone will look a little silly. Just give everyone that privacy. And I want you to think of yourself standing on a mountain. And I want you to think of all of the amazing things that you've done so far to get there, in your personal life and in your professional life. All the celebrations and the things that you've already done. But then I want you to think of looking to a much higher mountain. And you're looking, it seems so far away, but it's a bigger mountain. And there's people on top of that mountain. And they're cheering you on. And they're waving you towards them. And they're saying, you can do it. Let's go. But you're a little bit afraid, and that mountain is huge. And it's so far away. But they're waving you forward. You have coaches, you have family, you have colleagues that are waving you forward. And you decide to go. And you start to ascend to that much, much higher mountain. And you're going. And as you go, you start to look back at that first mountain. And it looks so far away. And when you finally get to that much higher mountain, people are there. And they're hugging you. And they're happy. And they're so proud. And you look back and you wave at that lower mountain. And you say, I did it. I've arrived. And you start walking forward, arm in arm, with the people that you care about the most, knowing that you have achieved that next level of success and joy, and you're on that trajectory to you being your best self. I want to thank you so much for spending an hour with me. It would be my honor to have a conversation with you or to help your team any way that I can. I'll stay here as long as they let me to answer questions. Thank you so much.